Hello and welcome to this video here where we're going to be taking a look at how do we solve a two-variable logic puzzle. I'm going to go through step by step on how I'm going to solve this one and what it looks like to solve, and the steps involved in solving any logic puzzle or how we might want to do it. So we're going to start with this example here where we're taking a look at five people and they have five different flowers that they like. Now, when we talk about logic puzzles, there's always a one-to-one correlation. So in other words, each person has an individual flower that they like as their favorite, and nobody else has that as their favorite. They also have only a single flower, not multiple flowers. So that's kind of how we can solve these and how we're going to look at solving them. So the example here is that Karen, Derek, Faye, Tanya, and Scott each have a different favorite flower. Which child goes with which flower? So we're going to be given clues. In this case, we have five different clues. And those clues will hopefully help us figure out exactly which kid likes each flower the best. Okay, so that's what we're going to kind of go through. Now you'll notice there on the bottom left that, so we have right down there. Okay, we have a kind of a table or a matrix, if you want to call it that, which is going to help us to solve it. And then on the bottom right, okay, so right below me here is kind of the answer key or the answer page that we're going to use. Now, filling out that matrix, we are going to use both check marks and X's to determine is something true or is something not true. So let's look at the first one. The first clue says that Tanya is allergic to and so doesn't like carnations. Well, this tells us that Tanya does not like carnations, so we can put an X in that where it meets up on the matrix there. Okay, so there where Tanya meets up with carnation, we can do that. Now we're told she's allergic to it, whatever that means. Maybe it'll help us later. Okay, so we can kind of use some of these clues later on as well. Now the second clue says that Karen's favorite is not the tulip. Very direct, very clear. Karen, not tulip. All right, so let's put an X there as well. Now, once we've put an X there, we know that Karen now only has four options that she could have. Tanya only has four options, and there are only four people that can have a tulip as their favorite so far. So we're just eliminating options at this point. All right, clue number three. Derek hates tulips and roses. Well, that's pretty clear. So then we just say he hates tulips and roses. Those cannot be his favorite. So we're going to put two X's in there. And again, that's going to limit Derek to three different options, Daisy, Violet, Carnation. And also the tulips are down to just Faye, Tanya, or Scott, who might like the tulips. All right, so that's three clues. We don't have a lot of X's on there yet, but we're going to keep building and trying to solve this puzzle. The fourth one is Faye likes violets. Well, that gives us a check mark. So we're going to check mark Faye and Violet. So that gives us one of our answers right there. Now, because we have this answer, okay, we know that nobody else is going to like a violet. So we can X off all the other people with violets. And we also know that Faye will not like or will not have any one of those others as her favorite. So we can X off all those other ones with Faye. What that does is it eliminates a lot of possibilities, okay, and it starts to narrow in our choices. So hopefully our last clue is going to help us to narrow things down even farther. So our last clue there is that Scott likes the flowers that Tanya is allergic to. This is where we have to go back up to take a look at one of the clues again, okay, which has to do with Tanya. Well, Tanya is allergic to carnations, so that tells us that Scott likes carnation. So we can put a check mark there. And again, we're going to X off all the other carnation and Scott values there, or boxes. So that's the end of our clues. Now we haven't got all the answers yet, but what we can do is we can now, by the process of deduction, okay, we can find the rest of our answers. Let's look at Derek's row right there. Derek has four X's in his row and one space empty. Well, that's going to tell us that it can't be any of the other four, but Derek has to like daisies. That's got to be his favorite. All right, so that gives us kind of a bit of a clue, okay, and we can just use it. But it also tells us that nobody else is going to have Daisy as their favorite, so we can X off those. All right, next up, let's look at Karen's row. Okay, Karen has to like the rose, so we're going to put a check mark there. But before we do that, I just want to quickly go back to Tanya. Okay, even though Tanya has two spots open, we look at the tulip column, okay, the tulip column there, and there's only one available. So Tanya is going to have to like the tulip. So I'm going to do Karen and Rose, X off that, and then Tanya and Tulip, and now we have all of our answers. We can then transfer these answers into our table, and we have Karen likes the rose, Derek likes daisy, Faye likes violets, Tanya likes tulips, and Scott likes carnations as their favorite type of flower. Again, solve by eliminating certain possibilities, okay, to come up with a final answer in as to which variable is connected to the other one. All right, I hope this has helped you out, giving you some ideas on how to solve logic puzzles, and now you are able to complete these kinds of questions a little bit easier. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful rest of the day.